We're here in Baltimore at Baltimore Photo Space because we just had a book release party for Surveyor, my latest book, and we did it here in Baltimore for a specific reason. So I wanted to bring you all along, tell you a little bit about why Baltimore Photo Space. The book is very much involved with Chillicothe in Ohio, so I've had a few people, even here tonight, who came out to the event who asked, like, why Baltimore? This video, I just wanted to bring you guys along for the trip and share a little bit about it, and again, why we chose Baltimore. I've talked about Baltimore Photo Space quite a bit. I often wear the shirt. I'm a company man, I guess. But I've talked plenty of times about Baltimore Photo Space because it's ran by Kyle and Tori, two people who I've known for a really long time at this point, despite them living as far away as they do, just through social media for over 10 years at this point. They've been good friends. So since the beginning of Baltimore Photo Space, I've been a big fan of what this place is and what it offers. And, you know, while I was in town today, I spent a decent amount of the time just being here inside and just flipping through a bunch of books. Not having something like this around me, I shop just like most people online, but the people that actually get to come in here to the shop and flip through books, I would do it all the time if I could, but we had a good time around Baltimore. Kyle kind of showed us around, and we got to go out and make some photos, or at least try to, and fall a little bit, and
Oh! You
good?
That's what the wrist strap is for.
tried to get a little sense of Baltimore, and this is the first time I've been able to actually spend any time here other than just driving through, so it's been a really good time. Once the book was finished and it was actually in hand and I was able to start shipping the book out myself, I knew I was going to have copies set aside that were going to be here for sale at Baltimore Photo Space, and I was going to figure out logistics for getting the books here. It had been a few years since I had been here to Baltimore Photo Space, and I could use a good visit with my friends. So I said, how about I just drive the books down there and drop them off? We can get dinner or something, and then I'll drive back. And Kyle had the idea to do sort of an event, like a book release party, and actually have people get together. And again, I don't get that kind of opportunity to meet up with people and other photographers or people that watch these videos. I don't get an opportunity to do that all the time. So I immediately jumped at that idea, and we started kind of figuring out what the plan was going to be and when it was going to happen. Yeah, the event was amazing. When we first started talking about the idea of doing something like this, I didn't want to make it more than what it needed to be. I didn't want to do a presentation or a speech or, you know, anything like that. I just wanted to hang out with people and actually get to like have real face-to-face time with people, because most of the time when people are watching these videos, all of you, I don't see you in real life. And so when I get opportunities to do stuff like this and actually meet people face-to-face for the first time, people I've talked to or people I've never met or heard from, but they've been watching for years, it's really cool to be able to do that. And that was really the whole goal of doing this kind of thing. But hearing feedback from people, having the book in hand, for the longest time, it's just an idea or a thought, or you have the pictures that you know you're going to do something with it, but you haven't put it together yet. And so like the finished result is always just in your head for a while. And then you think about eventually other people seeing it and how will they receive it, and hearing from people tonight after they would actually be able to flip through the book if they didn't already have it. It's really interesting to see what other people pick up on and them notice things that I didn't see myself or didn't really think about. That kind of feedback is something that you wonder about the whole time you're working on something and putting it together. So now to actually have it out there in other people's hands, and now it's its own thing. It's not just, you know, my own idea of it in my head. It's just a really cool feeling.
All right.
So
Yeah,
I can talk to them, and
The
then you
people
can
in
look
the
at
box.
the camera. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna
This is
talk
all
to
perfect
you.
to This is all perfect to include. Yeah. Yeah, dude. It's somehow social media. It can be good in some ways. We've got there's like 4 or 5, maybe 6 different photographers that you and I and then several other people all kind of met through Instagram around the same time and are oddly enough like all still close friends, and we're all over different parts of the states. So yeah, a lot of people tonight were like, so why Baltimore? Like the book, it's in Ohio, why Baltimore? And so it was fun to kind of like, I don't know, share that with people. Like, yeah, that's just a friend that lives far away that I don't see that often. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the last time I was here was 2021. But there's a heavy BPS presence on the channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's like, I don't know. It's cool for us to have been friends for so long. Like you were saying, I couldn't remember if it was like 2013 or 14, and you were saying it could have been even 2012 maybe.
Yeah.
It's
been
hard.
a long time.
Yeah, it's hard to think back, but it has been a long time, and so to see you opening BPS, like originally it was just a site when you first started, so you were just selling books, online,
Yeah.
and then 2021. You're actually, when are you celebrating your 3-year?
It was yesterday.
It was yesterday.
Friday, July 12th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
3 years of the physical space that we're in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is huge. And like, I've told you a million times as I've been in here, I'm like, man, I would be in here all of the time just because it's a unique spot in terms of like, not everyone has a place like this with all of these different books and such a good like variety. You don't, I at least for me, I feel like most people don't have access to that all the time. So it's just cool to see. It's cool to see everybody that's in here that's like, oh yeah, I just live down the street and I come in here and flip through books, and it's incredible.
Yeah, it's definitely not an experience that I think most people get to have. I mean,
Yeah.
especially outside of the bigger cities, the like on the both sides of the country, New York and LA, have a lot of great art bookstores. But yeah, like it was a good reminder today of you coming to town and coming from Ohio and being like, I mostly only experienced this as a website.
Yeah.
So the enthusiasm and the excitement of like, oh, but now it's in real life. And I think I had to like drag you guys out of here this afternoon to try to go do something else while we had time.
Yeah, I didn't want to leave at times because
yeah.
I'm like, there's so much in here to see, and yeah.
Yeah, but that's always exciting when people come in who don't get to experience the books in person.
Yeah.
And whether they know about us or they don't, whether they have been on the website and they have already looked at the books online or they just found out about us.
Yeah.
The different experience that it is of getting to experience the books in person.
Right.
Because it's such a tactile thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't always come across on the internet.
Yeah, it's a totally different experience just looking at the pictures themselves online, but the book, so many of these that, I mean, I feel like there were books that I would have probably just looked past, you know what I mean, on the website, because again, it doesn't translate the same way. Yeah. And I feel like when I was like, being able to just have the ability to just do a quick flip through of something or just a glance, you get such a better idea and appreciation for all of the books. Yeah, man, it's an amazing space to have something like this, and it made me happy hearing all the different like relatively local people who take full advantage of it and are like, yeah, I'm as frequently as I can to stop in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, I was here to celebrate and have fun and hang out with everybody for the release of my book, but I'm not gonna come here and go home empty-handed. So we're gonna do a little photo book haul and share what I'm leaving with. Words That Helped, quotations collected by Robert Adams. This is not words of his. I have other books that he's written that are great, but I feel like if they're good enough for Robert Adams, should be good enough words for anybody. So I'm excited to read that one. This book is it's fascinating to talk about right now. This is Skin and Grove by Chris Killip, published by Stanley Barker. As Kyle was telling me about this customer he said there was a guy that came in and he is from Skin and Grove and knows all of these people, or most of these people that are in these photos, and had all kinds of stories about it. And as Kyle's telling me that same guy happens to come into the store. And so Kyle was like, I was just telling him about it, and he starts going through the book, and he's telling me essentially everything he had told you before.
Yeah.
And it was just like every page, it was like, this is so-and-so, and he would have a story about each person in the book. And the book itself is gorgeous. And the photos, like it's a beautiful, beautiful book. But that experience was so, like the fact that he was here while you were telling me about it. I was already interested in buying the book, but that was just such a cool thing. A really small or just an odd kind of circumstance. But this book is, a beautiful one. Definitely excited about that one. And then we have From the Heads of the Hollers by Shelby Lee Adams. Two of the first photo books I ever bought were from Shelby Lee Adams. I think I told you, I was like, I found them at a Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, like a long time ago. Probably like 2012, I would say, around there. And it was Salt and Truth and Appalachian Lives. Those are two books of his that I have that are great. The technique in a lot of these photos was so different compared to the first two books of his that I got, which I was a big fan of, but I was just kind of surprised at how different the work looked in this, even though it was a lot of the very like similar subject matter. Mm-hmm. Very, very Appalachian. I believe all of this was in Kentucky, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Which is where Shelby Lee Adams is from. But this one is just, this one's incredible. So had to pick that one up as well. Thanks for selling me a bunch of books, dude. Appreciate it.
Happy to help.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
Glad we had a few that caught your eye.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Where would you like to tell people if they're interested in Baltimore photo space? If they can make it to Baltimore, they should absolutely make a stop here because it's amazing. But elsewhere in the world online, where can people find what they need to find?
Yeah, we're pretty easy to find. It's just baltimorephotospace.com, spelled the way it sounds. Instagram is just Baltimore Photospace, and that's the easiest way. You can sign up on our website for the email list. We send out one a week with all the newest books and bestsellers and whatnot. Check it out if you're not in town. If you are, come by, check out the books. Hopefully we'll see you soon. You basically had to pull us away from being in here. So luckily we got out and we actually got to go out and try and shoot some photos. Pretty decent weather, but pretty hot and super humid as it has been. But classic Maryland July day. Yeah, but you know, I wanted you to just kind of like, you've known me long enough and you know the kind of stuff that I would be drawn to. And big, dense city kind of stuff isn't necessarily my thing. So you kind of took us off the beaten path a little bit, which it was awesome. Yeah, I mean, you and I are pretty like-minded, I think, in what we're interested in. So I knew if there was a place that I liked, that you'd probably be pretty happy there. So there was this spot that we went to. It's it's a reservoir just north of the city, and really beautiful spot with these rocks overlooking the water and underneath this bridge. And it's a place that I like to hang out, even not taking photos. It's just a really beautiful place to be. Seemed like a nice way to spend a summer afternoon. Hung out there for a little while, took some pictures, just sat on the rocks, and I would be frequenting that spot a lot if I lived nearby. That's a good spot to be. Yeah, I hadn't been in a while either, and it's always nice. Like you were saying, the water today was so much lower than what it normally is. So we kind of got to really get down there Yeah, closer
Right.
than you usually could. It's always a nice excuse when somebody comes and you think of places that maybe you wouldn't have made time to go to. But
Yeah.
when you want to show a friend this place, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I know a beautiful spot. And I
We
haven't been
talked
there in a
about
while.
that earlier. That kind of, you even no matter what it is, you kind of take your spot for granted at times, like because you're so used to it, and yeah, when someone else comes in, it's like, oh yeah, it's like with photo books where it's like
You're like, oh,
your
no.
own personal books. It's like when people come to visit, like
Yeah.
last night when we were at your place,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh, you would like this book.
Right,
Oh yeah,
right,
like
right.
that's such a fun aspect of photo books for me, is like when
Yeah.
I actually get to be with friends and like find a book that they would be really into, and like,
Right.
you know what I mean? It was,
It's kind of a nice bonus if it's something they're not familiar with either.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I think there was a couple I showed you
Yeah.
last night, and I was like, oh, cool, he hasn't seen this. Like,
yeah,
and it's fun to put people onto something new.
yeah, especially when it's out of print and gonna be hard for me to track down. And now I'm like, I'm gonna be looking
gonna
at,
cost you.
yeah, but yeah, there are a couple now that are on my just keep an eye. You've had events here before of like different styles and everything. Like, how did you feel about how everything went tonight? Because you're the one gracious enough to have me here doing this sort of thing. So, yeah, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was great all around. I mean, you know, like, it was a great turnout. People seemed really stoked on the book, on just hanging out, meeting you, meeting other people. I talked to
Yeah.
people about, like, you know, they had met some people tonight that they'd never met before, and it was
Oh,
their
that's
first
rad.
time at the store, even though they're local.
Yeah,
And they bought from us online, but
I'd
they
heard from
finally had
that.
an excuse to come visit the shop, which was really cool.
amazing.
I think people were stoked. I mean, I'm happy. I mean, worst case scenario, if nobody came, I just would have got to hang out with my
Yeah, we
friend
did-
at the
we would've-
store.
yeah.
And,
That was the whole reason. I was
Yeah.
like, let me just drive these books down,
you
dude.
know, it was a win-win for me.
Yeah.
I just, you know, we get to hang out, and hopefully some people come, and they did. And yeah, I mean, we've been trying to make a push to do more of these sort of community geared events and book meetups and artist talks and signings and things. And it's always, you know, it's always a nice bonus if it can be with a friend.
Yeah.
So, so it was sort of a win-win situation, I
Yeah,
think.
that's
fun.
awesome, man. I appreciate you having me. It's like being able to do something like this. I would choose just, again, like the whole Ohio connection to the book and everything and the pictures. Like, this would be the only place I would want to do something like this, because it's,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, it's just, it's awesome, man. And we've been friends through all of it, but just, you know, from the beginning, when you like talked about doing all of this, like I've just, it's been awesome to watch from a distance and like just see everything that this space has become. So, yeah. Thank you for having me. And,
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank all of you guys for watching. If you came out tonight, appreciate you being here. And if you weren't, I hope you enjoyed the video. So that's it for this one. Now we need to pack up and go to sleep and go home, because we got to drive in the morning. So
Mission accomplished.
that was a very quick but amazing trip to Baltimore. Huge thanks to everybody that came out to the event, and Kyle and Tori for having us, Tyler coming along with me, filming, editing this video. Really hope you all enjoyed this one. So if you're interested in picking up a copy of Surveyor, you can do so at Baltimore Photo Space now. There are a few left. However, I do have plenty of copies available at mattdayphoto.com, where they'll be shipping directly here from me to you. And mattdayphoto.com, by the way, was made with today's sponsor, Squarespace. I used to book all of my wedding photography business through my website. Now I self-publish and sell zines and books, things like that, through my website. Email newsletter, everything I do, all the different hats I've worn as a photographer for over 10 years at this point, everything has been done directly through Squarespace. It's easy enough for me to do it. That's the main thing I love about it so much. You just choose a template and you can customize it as you need, or you can keep it as simple as you'd like. I like to keep things simple, but they are constantly adding new features and things, especially on the back end, analytics-wise, that are super helpful for me. If I ever need help with anything, I always use their customer service. They're available 24/7, and they're amazing. If you're a photographer, I highly encourage you to give your work a place to live and a place where you can do everything outside of all other social media channels and algorithms. Just give your work the home it deserves. You can start a free trial at squarespace.com, but when you're ready to sign up, go to squarespace.com/MattDay and use the code MattDay at checkout That'll save you 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video and supporting this channel. That's going to do it for this video. If you guys have any questions at all, any thoughts, if you were there at the event, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. We'll keep the conversation going. But that's it for today. So thank you guys for watching. I love you, and I'll see you next time.